everyone, and welcome to Achieve Oxfordshire. It's myself, Lizzie, and I've got the lovely Beth. I'm a practitioner for Achieve, and Beth, do you want to say a little bit about what you do?
Yeah, so I'm also a practitioner, and I work sort of one-to-one with clients for Galatian 1+, which was specifically sort of geared towards people that were suffering with their mental health, especially after lockdown. So yeah, today's been something that's become very, very prevalent with all my clients, so I thought it'd be useful to just share the topic.
Yeah, this is something that a lot of our clients within the Lose Weight with Achieve and the Glogy groups and even Swim to Slim, it does come up a lot. So I think it's a great one to chat about. And I know we both have had experiences with it. So I think sometimes it's nice to share those and just let people know that they're not on their own. And it's all quite normal. It's just that we don't talk about this stuff very often. Cool. Okay, do you want to kick us off? Yeah. Oh, we'll do a disclaimer as well, just so you know we aren't professional practitioners within this remit of training, but we do have experience with it and experience with working with clients as well. So if you are unsure of anything, please obviously get in touch with your GP or a professional, and we do have some links to some really great charities that I can link in this video as well.
Yeah, it's very casual, very spontaneous, so I'm sorry if we're all a little bit like jumbled, but I think it's the most authentic usually if we just have like a conversation. Lizzie is across the way from me, so if I look up, I'm just looking actually at Lizzie.
Yeah, we are in the same room.
Yeah. So yeah, I thought we'd start off with like our own personal experience and then delve more into this lovely book I've been reading. It was one that was recommended by a client and actually by one of the GPs we met with, part of our training. He said it's a really good book to read. It's by Dr. Christopher Fairburn, Overcoming Binge Eating. It's been really useful. So just for my own experience, I have always loved food. I can quite actively say I've always loved food, but it's at times felt a bit more like a love-hate, and it has felt like an addiction almost at times, where it feels very persistent and not always the most nourishing of relationships, I should say. So even though we're all in this field, it's good actually to like air out our own issues with food and actually just say, you know, it's something that can sort of continue across life. And actually most people have had an experience with food, and actually I think actually in the majority of this sort of population, actually most of us have issues with food more so than most of us don't. So yeah, for me personally, I can sort of remember issues for me starting when I was about teenage years, 13. You get into secondary school, you start getting a bit more conscious of how you look and how you're perceived and your attractiveness and all those lovely things. And I was in a very loving household, and we all loved food. And it was always like, what are we going to do to celebrate? We're going to go to eat. And by the time I reached sort of secondary school, I was a little bit chubbier than most of the kids. And it's something that I wasn't actively aware of. I was very lucky to have parents that weren't ever critical. And I know I'm very, very lucky in that sense. And I found that progressively, as I was struggling at school with sort of social circles, I found that I'd often come home and sort of binge eat and eat very, very secretively, and it'd be a recurrent thing. And I think as I got older, I had that, everyone, especially as a woman, had that chase to lose weight and be a certain aesthetic. And so that would only fuel the fire. And it was only like a decade or so later that I thought, God, this approach really isn't helping me. But yeah, for me, it was always a case of I'd go to school, barely eat anything at all, or I'd have a lunch that had been prepared by my mum and barely touch it at all. Get home, rake cereal boxes, biscuits, and I was literally known as the mouse of the house, because it was all just sort of like, Beth went into the biscuit tin and everything had gone. And it was always when I knew that there was an empty house or other people were preoccupied, and it was all very, very secretive. And yeah, just over the years, the more I've talked about it, the more it's actually alleviated it. So yeah, hopefully just speaking about this here will make people feel a lot more like, okay, I'm not so alone. Because that's certainly how I felt. That's why I felt very strange. So
yeah, I mean, mine was slightly different. I didn't have really any issues at school. I was yeah, I had a great time. I had like the best sort of childhood ever. Was always on for some reason. I don't know if it's maybe something because I always saw my mum was always on a diet. So then I always felt like I needed to be on a diet. And I guess that, again, at the time came from magazines and things because we didn't have social media back in my day. So yeah, a lot of that came from maybe magazines and things like that. But I wouldn't really binge eat as a kid. I just ate what I was given. Yeah, so I guess maybe it was more around the fact that the kitchen was almost a place that I never really went. So then as I became more of an adult, then I went to dance college and a lot got brought up with my weight then. And it was always like, oh, just some awful comments, like awful comments that I had and just thought was normal and never challenged them and never, yeah, I look back now, I was like, God, why didn't I stand up for myself? But, so absorbed a lot of that. Anyway, I then, once I was in a position where I was living on my own, or taking care of my own food, which was really when I was sort of 16, 17, so a little bit later, same thing. I just wouldn't eat all day. And then it was a bit of a weird dynamic because I was with a lot of dance friends and we kind of did it together almost. It was almost like we'd eat loads of rubbish and then like purge it or get rid of it, or then wouldn't eat all of the next day and that kind of thing. Or was trying loads of different diets and always getting praised for losing weight. So I remember my second year at college, dance college, when I was in London, and they were like, oh, Lizzie, you look amazing. And basically all I'd done was taken up smoking and was drinking sugar-free Red Bull, and I wasn't eating because I found that the smoking helped me with the binge eating, so then I wouldn't binge eat. So it was just a bit of a mad cycle. And I think that it was years and years and years of, I would say a solid 6-7 years of just like feeling uncontrollable around food and just going crazy with it. And then it was like small steps. I can't remember the exact time when I was like, right, this is something needs to change, but it was small steps and little things that I learned along the way and what I found was normal, and then starting to view myself differently, which is why I always say to people, like, this kind of stuff doesn't go away overnight. Like, it takes a long time. And at the end of the week, looking at your progress. So always looking back and be like, right, okay, maybe I binged yesterday, but I didn't the day before that. And that's great. And being really objective about it, treating yourself like you would treat a very loved one, and not how we often treat ourselves. So yeah, those are our experiences. I mean, I've got many more of just like, yeah, eating. I ate my
Christmas chocolates.
Yeah, I ate my dad's birthday cake in the middle of the night, and I blamed the students. My mum had students, and she was telling them, "Who ate this cake?" And I was like, "Oh." Had to go to Waitrose and buy another, all sorts of stuff.
Having to recover all of the lost goods.
Like really like nutty things, like where somebody would throw, like we'd be having like a takeaway with friends and I wouldn't want to eat in front of everyone and they'd throw it away. Like literally throw it in the bin, and I'd get up in the middle of the night and I'd go and raid the bin. And it's just like, you feel like, I remember having a chat with a client about this, and she said a similar story. And she said, I feel like I need to be sectioned. And I said, it's not that, it's just that we don't talk about it. Exactly. Like, people have these experiences. Yeah. I've had loads of, at the gym, like a lot of bodybuilders that I used to work with. All of this was really prevalent, but they never saw it as binge eating. They just thought it was,
that's the more concerning side, I think.
Yeah. They hadn't recognised.
People don't want to heal from it
because they were restricting so much, and then crazy. Anyway, should we get onto some tips? Some tips. Tips.
So it's a whole book, and it's got really good sort of resource in there. It actually makes you feel a lot more comforted that the way that your brain is working isn't so weird and wonderful. It's actually quite pragmatic in the way that it's working. A lot of the time it's because of some sort of restriction, whether that's literally physically with food, or you feel sort of neglected, or you feel like repressing some sort of emotion. He gives a lot of good sort of reasons as to why it's happened, so you can actually find the foundation and say, for me it was a big thing of actually just saying, like, rather than saying, okay, I'm never going to do that again, it's actually saying, that's a part of me. It's the same as like sometimes a bit jealous, sometimes a bit angry. sometimes a bit reclusive, and actually just treating it with the same approach of like, maybe that is just a part of me, rather than thinking it's got to be something that's got to be cured.
Yeah,
you can work alongside it a lot easier then.
Yeah, I think so. It is kind of a part of your identity in a way, but it's something, if every time that you do something to change that, you're then casting a vote for that new person that you want to be, that you're working towards. So it's just not, there's a lot worse coping mechanisms. Absolutely. So it's, you know, we're all what's the word, something in progress. What's the word? We're all a
work in progress.
Round of applause for this. Oh wow! Oh my goodness, I could not get that word in my. We're all a work in progress.
We are a work in progress, though.
Yeah. Sorry, I interrupted. Okay.
No, not at all. So yeah, his first tip, and it's sort of like quite a tiered structure, and it's sort of like he adds little suggestions as and when people might be ready for it, because again, it's not an overnight thing. It's not like, okay, so I'm just gonna suddenly eat very intuitively and I'm only gonna ever want fruits and veggies. It's not that simple. And so it's actually better to wean a lot of these habits and these behaviors. So the first thing he starts with, which can feel a little bit like it's a jump in the deep end, is self-monitoring. So he said ideally sort of journaling what you're eating, when you're eating it, and whereabouts, what place you're eating it, essentially. And where you can, just treating it in the same way that you would like a data spreadsheet, rather than thinking like, oh God, I've eaten every 2 hours, or I've eaten nothing all day and then I've had all of this. It's more so actually coming to that realization, coming to that, okay, this is happening to me, but this is the first step actually, and not actually being able to tackle it, rather than keeping it a secret. Because I feel like half the weight for me was almost trying to keep it a secret from myself, even though I know it was so common. It's like I was so shameful of it. Yeah. And actually, even writing that down on paper is just, and voicing it in that way can be really rewarding, I think.
Because I find it really helpful for me, sitting and writing down everything that I've eaten. That isn't that helpful. But sitting there and like, I always do this now. Not really with food anymore, but just with other kind of emotions that I'm going through, is just getting my voice memos up on my phone and just talk. It sounds so strange.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
But talking, like almost talking to myself, because the hardest thing is telling somebody else that you're doing it. Yes. But actually that was a real turning point for me when I moved in with my partner, and he was like, what are you doing?
Really? Everyone I voiced it to didn't seem anywhere as big a deal as I thought it was going to be. I thought like, no, it didn't. Like a freak.
Yeah,
like, was like, well, me too.
That's it. I think I thought that, and I was really. I remember we were having a conversation, and I was really upset because I was like, I'm so disgusting, I'm this, that, and I was really down. He was like, I don't understand, Lizzie. Like, you've hardly eaten anything today, and I was like, you don't know. I was like, I've had this. And he was like, when did you have that? I was like, when you were in the shower, when you went out. He's like, what? How did I not see this? How did I not know that you were doing this? And then feeling really bad. And I was like, because I'm so clever. Because I'm so good at hiding
Little
ninja, food ninja. But actually being able to tell him, it was quite like, it was just like, oh, okay, so he knows, so not hiding it anymore. And then being able to eat in front of him again, that was like a big turning point. And sometimes, you know, I still do little things or whatever, and he's like, where have the Rocky bars gone? And I'm like, I don't know. So,
but it's nice knowing that you've got that support there, rather than feeling completely in like an isolated room.
Oh yeah.
Which is something, and you just it doesn't help necessarily.
For us, we can laugh about it. It's not like there's no judgment. He's just like, whoa. He's like, wow, you can pack it away, and I'm like, I know. But it's mad to think where I was before I'd started voicing it, before I'd acknowledged it myself, and before I'd spoken to him about it, and how bad I felt, and how low times I didn't want to leave my flat,
and all the rules in your head when you look back at them,
so exhausting.
Like, how?
Just exhausting.
Where did this come from? Yeah.
So yeah, I definitely think being able to, I mean, for some people it might work, journaling and writing it all down.
For me, I hate writing, so for me it's voicing it.
Yeah, I have to voice it as well.
Yeah, or even just telling someone, like it doesn't even have to be as regimented as like I write down every day. But even if you just say to someone or say to your phone or whatever, jot down.
And I think as
it's
well,
just having that realization of actually this has happened.
Yeah.
But I'm acknowledging in that, and I really want to remove that shame from it.
Yeah, and sometimes I would say to my other half, I don't like other half actually. He's not the other half of me. He's a completely whole person. And so am I. To my partner, I would say like, oh, I feel awful. I've had this, and this today. He'd be like, why do you feel bad for that? Like he just can't compute it. It's like, and then I'm like, yeah, why do I?
So
yeah, because I think in my head, if I kept it in my head, it's like, oh my goodness, I've had like 2 chocolate bars.
You give that voice so much power.
Yeah, I'd then be like, oh well, screw it, I might as well just eat everything.
Yeah.
Whereas by saying to him, he's like, that's fine, just have like a decent dinner. And I'm like, oh yes. Oh yeah. So yeah, that's a good one. Definitely journaling, getting out there. It's important, I think.
His other one is a little bit controversial for me anyway. And he said, ideally start weighing yourself every week at the same sort of time. So for me, with my journey, when there wasn't a set date, the thing is there wasn't a date where I was like, right, this is the time. It was just sort of a gradual, this feels better for me. I'm doing this. This is more rewarding. And then time I was like, oh, okay. But for me, it was stepping back from the scales. Helped me actually.
Do you know what's really interesting about that is actually in Atomic Habits, which I'm obsessed with at the moment, by James Clear, something that he talks about is you speak to any person that is successful in their field, there is no one turning point. There's no big, like, you know, like we see in the film, they suddenly do like a montage and we're like, oh, that's all I need in my life. And I'm gonna yeah. But actually, it's the build-up of all these small things, these tiny steps, and saying, I'm just going to never, ever do this again. That's not helpful. Whereas if we go, right, okay, well, I'm like small steps towards it. Maybe I'm going to
make it not even a conscious thought. Like the amount of times that you say, like, I need to do this.
Yeah.
There's always going to be a little teenage rebellion like in there, just like, no. I don't want to.
I think I gave myself almost something to do when I wanted to go into that mode, and you can't always catch it. Sometimes it just sneaks up on you and you go crazy, and that's that, and you have to get over it. But at times when I kind of felt it coming on, I was like, oh, I just want to eat a small village. It sounds so weird, but I would Google, why do I want to binge eat?
Oh wow! See, I never turned to Google.
Google was really interesting, and then I did come across like forums and stuff, and it was really nice. And obviously, I don't want other people to be going through pain, but it was nice to see other people having experiences like I was having.
Well, there's more people coming into your room and saying,
and just writing about it. I didn't. I never engaged. I just would sit and read them, and it was a strange thing. Sometimes that would just let it pass. I'm like, I almost needed that logic of like, oh, I'm doing this because I'm feeling this way, or because it's a habit, or it's because this is my way of dealing with the stress that I've experienced. So I always needed that, rather than it being an illogical action or thought or need. I needed to make it more logical for me. So Google for once was quite helpful, actually.
So weight is very much, I think, dependent on the person, I would say.
I don't know that it comes, I mean, obviously this guy's a professional, so I think, you know, whatever, but I just don't think it's that relevant. No. Like, we're not
But it's good in the same way as, like, giving that narrative in your head of voice on paper. It's similar in the sense of, like, if I don't see my weight as such a big issue, it won't be. If I, at least it removes the power from it. Because I know if I was sat on the scales now, I'd still have a moment where I'd be like, "Ooh, that was a little bit higher, that's a little bit." I'd still have an inner critique there. But I know there's some people that will just see it as pure data, and they'll be like, "Oh, actually, this has built some momentum for me." It's really difficult trying to look at it objectively, though, when it's so
really hard. It's really hard because we put so much, and it sounds so stupid. Put so much weight on it, which we do. It means a lot. Like that number on the scale means a lot because we get told it means a lot.
Yes.
So I think it depends what your relationship is like with that number. and if you know that it's going to set you off in like it's going to trigger you, like
It's like the journaling. It's sort of like if it's too much of a leap in the deep end, don't feel like you've got to do it every day, but it can be useful in establishing that you're no longer in denial. You're like, this is the reality now.
It's not the only measure, is it? Like we can look at other measures of it.
Absolutely.
Like, you know, if you were journaling, you can look at days that were a bit better than others and stuff. So
third one is something that I think all of our programs sort of like do cater to or promote, is sort of regular eating. So sort of like that whole idea of 3 meals a day or 5 small meals a day, or just like eating alongside the lovely, is it the circadian rhythms?
Oh, your circadian rhythm,
so you have like, it doesn't have to be a set time, even doesn't have to be like I have to eat at 8 p.m. or 8 a.m. or 12 p.m. or unless you've got a very set work schedule. But actually making sure you do check it, because I always say to people, your body is like the checking in with, like, well, having regular meals is like checking in with a friend. If you suddenly went all day, so say you had a friend that was very reliant on you, and they're expecting you to give them 3 calls a day, and you leave it till the evening, they're going to be an absolute mess by the end of the day. And it's nice, don't think like a full meal has to be a big, sandwich or a big like plate of potatoes and meat and veggies and all that. So it doesn't have to be a huge meal. It could be something small. But I think even just having that check-in with your body lets it know, like, I'm here, I'm looking after you, I'm busy, I'm a bit emotional right now, I'm a bit stressed, but I'm here, and I'll give you a proper like bit of later on.
I'm much more of a snack, but maybe because when I was in a really bad place of like binge eating and stuff, I wasn't eating all day and then I was going crazy. But actually, when I started to look at getting more food in my day, it just felt better for me to eat regularly. And because I don't really like big meals, like that's not what I would necessarily binge on. I'd always be binging on like chocolate bars or whatever. So if I can have like little bits of stuff, like that definitely helps me, but it might not work for everyone.
But having that meal alongside, and he said in it as well, sticking to those meals. So that's something that I sort of say to each of my clients is like, you may have had a binge on the Tuesday, but don't go into that autopilot of I need to restrict tomorrow. I need to not eat at all tomorrow, or I need to only eat fruit tomorrow, or like just treat it as though that Tuesday's not happened. And you're building this whole process is building trust again with your body and building love with your body again. And if you just say, okay, this is great, oh God, I've gone down the pothole again, and then just punish it, it's going to be listening to that voice and responding in the same, like you're not actually getting anywhere.
I think it's trusting yourself. It's trusting yourself as well, and like understanding, like when we start telling ourselves, I can't have this, why don't you question it? It doesn't mean that it's true. Exactly. Just go, why can't you have that? Of course you can. Like, if that's some food that you want, like, have it.
It's like permission. It's really tough.
It is really tough. But you've got to trust. You've got to trust your own brain and what it's telling you and stuff. But also question it, because it's not always logical. It's not always logical.
He said avoid windows more than about 4 hours, and I know for me 3 hours is my limit. That's when I start getting angry and bitchy to everyone. So even if that's a little check in, a little like bit of fruit, yogurt, whatever you fancy, like just a little something just to check in, I think that's important. It's so common for us to go like lunchtime we'll have it at 12, then we'll have our dinner at 7.
We've been conditioned. I always think that, and I had a lot of clients that were like finishing work at 5 and not eating till like 7:30 or whatever to get home, but they've had their lunch was at like 12 and they're like, oh, I'm starving, and I'm like, no wonder. And I always, what the solution used to always be was just having a few things like some mixed nuts and dried fruit in the car and having that before you drive home, because what the issue was, driving home and coming in through the door, and the first place you go into is the kitchen, and then eating until you get to dinner. Or actually when you've eaten in your car at work,
Yeah.
that's sort of, that's still work. And then you close the door and you come home. When you walk through the door, your intention is to do something else. It's not to get food or drink or whatever.
Yeah. And your choices will be so much healthier when you've got that freedom of like, I've got these snacks here. I've got, if you feel like, okay, I'm going to get home. I always say to clients, I'm never going to fool you and say a celery is going to taste as good as a bit of chocolate. I'm not going to fool anyone. And that becomes more and more prominent the more hungry you get.
Yeah.
The more you get hungry, the more less appealing that like stale bit of broccoli in your fridge is looking.
Yeah.
And the more appealing bit of white chocolate's looking.
Yeah.
So it is important to actually clock, am I leaving my meals a bit too far apart? Could I bridge the gap with some snacks?
Yeah.
And you'll no doubt make healthier choices as a result.
Yeah. And I think it's important to recognise as well that these foods that that commonly we will binge on, they have been created with that bliss point in mind, haven't they? So it's that perfect amount of sugar, saturated fats and salts to make you want more of that food. And the more we want it, the more our taste buds then want it. But when we start to wean ourselves off it, when we start to encourage more of those natural foods, when it's really funny, like some chocolate, like dairy milk chocolate tastes so sweet to me now. Whereas before, because it's almost like you always need more to satisfy that taste bud because it's got used to it. You've got used to that taste, so your body needs more of it to satisfy that thing. Whereas now, honestly, I just can't have a lot of it. Blows my mind.
I wish I had that. I'm still like, a bit of white chocolate, but the difference is having that freedom of I'm allowed to have it has made all the change, rather than like, I shouldn't be having this.
Honestly, mad things. I remember just having all I had, and this was when I was living in London in a student flat, and all we had was like digestive biscuits with like no chocolate on them, so they're not as nice, are they? Some Philadelphia, and then like caster sugar, which was normally just for people's tea. And I was just in such a weird rage of like wanting food. I just put the Philadelphia into a bowl, all the sugar, just mixed it up, and then crunched up all these digestive, and just sat and ate it. And on my own, like I wasn't even enjoying it. And then, there would be a birthday, or there'd be an event, or there'd be a wedding, and I wouldn't eat because there'd be people there. And it's just like, there are times when I should be eating and enjoying it rather than sitting on my own. But
it's so common though, Lizzie. It's amazing how much.
It's turned into a counselling session for me. It is common,
It's good. Very, very common. I feel like it can be the scariest thing opening up. But the most healing thing for sure. I certainly like the moment I started opening up to people more about it and actually feeling like this thing hasn't got so much power. It didn't anymore. It really did start to actually say, and you start to be able to laugh at it. And you still have your moments. I'm not saying it's an overnight, it's magic wand. It's gone.
It takes time. It really takes time.
And it takes actually a lot of self-reflection, and that can be the toughest part for a lot of people. Is actually, all right, so I know I do this. What causes this? Rather than just letting it happen and let it feel like you're almost powerless to it. Saying, why am I doing this?
There is always a reason.
And you can't always avoid triggers. And actually just saying, I know that's my trigger. I know I'm going to want to have all the cake, all the chocolate or something at this point. And actually having that moment say, it is okay. That was the real big turning point for me, rather than just sitting with this guilt, because no amount of overthinking is going to change the past. No amount, nothing's going to change the past.
That's exactly it, isn't it? It doesn't change it. You've done it now. So you've got to put your big boy or girl pants on the next day.
In the present moment.
That's it. That's all we can do, is what is in the right now. So,
And he said, I've got a few more. He said, restrict your eating to certain places in your home, which I can actually resonate with, because I know for me, my binges used to always be that raid in the kitchen cupboard, or I'd take it over to a particular part of the settee that was all cushy, and I'd eat it there, whereas actually eating at the kitchen table, I'd eat a lot healthier. So actually having those sort of sacred places that you can actually say, no, I'm really going to actually enjoy this, rather than you get lost in emotion.
My thing was not necessarily places, but more being with people.
Okay.
So it was like, because I just knew that I wouldn't eat as much in front of everyone, because you can't
So how did you wean
sit
away
and
from that?
binge. Well, I think it was more that I would just kind of like plan in, like if I knew Friday night I'm seeing some friends, I'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to make sure that I have that thing that I'm thinking about, whatever it was, usually donuts. Like I'm going to have that with friends. And I would, whereas before I could sit and eat a whole box or like 2 or 3 boxes, when I'm sat with friends, I'm still enjoying that food. Yes, I'm still having those calories. Yes, at that point, I wasn't really trying to focus on weight at all, because the healing was around what was going on in my head and my relationship with myself. So then if I could sit and have those and enjoy those things with friends, I almost felt like I'd kind of won a little bit.
Yeah.
Because I was...
baby steps.
Yeah.
Yeah. Even if it's sort of like, and I'm not saying it's every occasion, you know, you can't just suddenly turn off that part of you that wants to secretively, it will feel very uncomfortable at first to actually have that.
And it in my head, I was so worried. It did take a long time to get to the point. I can't really remember what got me there, but I remember thinking about it, like sitting there and eating and thinking, oh my God, everyone's going to think I'm such a fat bee or whatever. And, you know, and all these horrible things about myself. And then when I sat with my friends and I was like, but they're all eating this stuff and they're all fine and happy, and no one's even talking about it. Like
everyone's in their own little bubble. It's one of the things I've learned in older age is just like, actually
everyone's just
pretty
themselves, aren't they? No one
no
even
one
notices. So that really helped me. But definitely having zones. I think I will always eat better at the dining room table than I will sat on the sofa in front of the TV.
And you're allowed to watch the soaps and have a little nibble here and there, but it's about clocking it and like, okay, is this actually something that's triggering that behavior, rather than it's just enjoyable?
It needs to be enjoyable.
And trying to create other spaces that are enjoyable rather than just that one spot would be.
You don't ever want to finish a meal or a snack, whatever, and be feeling guilty or shameful, because life is just way too short.
Absolutely.
So zones is a good one.
And he said, so I've got 2 more. He said, limit the stock of food you're likely to binge. So which I think isn't an easy one.
No.
For me, even now, I have like a little box of goodies that I'm like, oh, I picked that up from there and there, because I am still a big food lover. So I've still got my little box of treats, but I used to be so much more precious about it, and actually it'd be the number 1 place I would go when I wanted to binge. So I think actually, if you do have a certain place, whether it's your food, whether it's other people's foods that you know are in the house, see if there's any way that you can wean that down.
I think the difficulty is when you see the food. So they did a study on like cocaine addicts, and actually just looking at cocaine released dopamine. So it's the same thing with
outside
that can have, so when you see, that is often the cue. When you see that food, when you smell it or whatever it is, it releases that thing in your brain that creates that craving, and then you want to have it. One thing that is really prevalent within like behavior change and habit change and all that stuff is reducing the if you want to create a positive the cocaine the positive habit is reducing the number of steps it takes to get you to do that habit. And for something that is quite negative for you that you want to remove from your life is making it more difficult. So I don't necessarily advocate this, but I did have a client who used to put her treats into, I don't even know if treats is the right word, her sometimes foods into like it was like a locked safe thing, and she used to have to put in the code, and it just gave her that second to think about it. It's just giving you that moment to just breathe and go, do I want this? Like, am I going to feel good for this? If the answer is yes, oh my goodness, put that code in and have a great time. If the answer is no, like, come on, go and do something that's going to be good for you, that is going to make you feel good. So increasing the number of steps and that can be simple things like just putting the sometimes foods at the back of the cupboard and putting your fruit and stuff in the front.
It's amazing how much you forget and how crappy your short-term memory is. For me, anyway, there are times where I can I forgot I had that.
There are I honestly swear though that if I put chocolate in the fridge, it calls my name.
See, my memory's like a sieve, so I'm just like, oh,
really?
Yeah.
But I've got like I've got my dad sends me biscuits in the post. He's like, and a little note with take a coffee break. And I'm like, right, okay.
What type of biscuits?
Oh, he does the Lotus biscuit ones.
Okay.
Yeah, and
be quite prone
sometimes
to breakage in the.
Yeah, they are. They are, and sometimes he
crumble.
sends like the like the hotel ones. So
like shortbreads.
Yeah. So sometimes he sends me those, and always sends me random things like that. And I've actually put them in a cupboard that I very rarely go into, and it's just where our like I've got loads of extra tea bags in there. So we've got our tea and coffee out on the side, but they're all my extra ones. Yeah. And I just put them behind that. And yeah, it's mad because I never go into that cupboard unless I really, if I'm like,
but there's almost like a security, and it's there. It's my little emergency.
It's there for when I need it. Yeah. So yeah, I think that's a really good one.
But it becomes more of a choice rather than like I'm just going to raid the cupboards, just whatever's in there.
Yeah, it's just having that moment to breathe and go, do I want this? Yeah. Because that's the thing as well with habits is when a certain hormone is released that makes us feel low or anxious, whatever. We've got into the habit of grabbing that instant gratification, grabbing that quick fix because it actually is. It's easier, and often that can come from childhood. If you're upset as a kid and someone goes, I don't want a lollipop,
shove it on you.
That's it, isn't it? That's that instant gratification. Whereas, we have to try and move away from that.
Try to remember that it is all a choice.
It is,
and it can actually be quite freeing, in a way. It can
Which
be quite
is very
scary,
difficult, because when we talk about like addiction and stuff like that, it does feel like there isn't a choice.
It's powerless,
it's overpowering, isn't it? So,
but it can be a choice in a lovely way, in the sense of, no, I really want these biscuits.
And that
can make it so much more enjoyable.
Rather
than this, like, I shouldn't have that. It's trying to take away from that. I shouldn't to. No, actually, this is actually questioning. Do I want this? I want this.
Also, like, rather than saying I shouldn't, say I can have this. I can have this if I want it. If I want this, I can.
It strips away.
Yeah, you're suddenly like, oh, I'm not rebelling because I'm an adult. So I'm allowed to eat this food if I want to.
Exactly.
It's just whether or not it's in line with the person that I want to be and that kind of thing, and how I want to feel.
So his last point. He's got loads of others. It's like a whole, but these are like the introductory sort of stages. If you do feel like you are trying to tackle it at the moment, is alternatives to binging. So like I have a few clients that say distractions, or a lot of it is just passing of time. Or for me, it was always either stress plus a luxury of time, and I'll be like, okay, this is the time that I can actually alleviate this stress or try to. So actually having a list of distractions might be useful as well for other people. So he's listed being active, but again, be cautious around this in the sense that it's not compensatory activity. So it's not like I've binged, therefore I should, or I'm trying to do this instead of binging. It's just more like
enjoyable
maybe
activity.
I should go for a walk and use my mind in other ways, or stretch, or
So just want to touch on that, because I would, if I'd like been binge eating or something, and maybe I'd planned to do an exercise class in the evening that I really enjoyed, like I wouldn't go because I'd be like, oh well, that's pointless because I've just eaten loads of rubbish. And actually, and it's something I've really learned from my partner again, because he's just so normal and is, he'll have a donut or something that I used to think is something terrible to have. You go and work out, and but it's cool. Like it's that balance of he enjoys going to the gym.
The workout is still beneficial.
He actually enjoys doing that. So I can still go and do stuff that I enjoy doing, and have food that I see as stuff that I maybe shouldn't have, whatever. But
balance.
So it was overcoming that was really.
It doesn't have to be in a manual.
Rather than just letting myself slide down and down and down and down, it was like, oh, actually, I need to just pick myself up and keep going.
Yeah, bring the choice to the present moment again, rather than saying, oh, I've just accepted this is a crappy day.
Yeah.
How can I make this day better now?
Yeah.
That's the only thing you can really control. Reaching out, so phoning or seeing friends or family. Again, that's a really good way of being able to voice it, make it less secretive. If you do feel particularly emotional, it's a good time to actually release those emotions rather than feeling like you need to go and comfort with food. Using the internet productively. So he just said using the internet, and I thought, I think this book was maybe 2000s.
Okay.
But using the internet productively in the sense of things that do actually feel good rather than feel critical or compare. You've got a comparison there. So there's really like lovely sort of like self-love sort of podcasts and videos, or there's plenty of videos of people going through this exact same thing.
Yeah. Or even just something funny.
Yeah.
I just find like funny animal videos always pull me out of a
memes.
Yeah.
Bit of a laugh. Yeah. And entertainment. So whether that's like music or gaming or crafts, movies.
Yeah.
Bring up an old hobby and that can be like a real healing thing as well. You can actually then look at like your crafts and say, that was a really tough time, and actually
or learn a new skill.
Exactly. And pampering, which is one of my favorite ones.
Nice.
If you feel like you're going into that place of like self-sabotage, give yourself a good like little file of the nails, like a good bath, good little like facial massage or something.
Nice.
Go in with love rather than feeling like it's got to be something that's so productive.
And also I think it's nice, it is remembering that this isn't actually this isn't your whole identity. Like it's part of you. There's plenty of really incredible things about you that are not related to food at all, but it's just, I think it's a societal thing. We put so much on image, don't we? But to me, like, you know, when I'm thinking about friends and stuff, I couldn't really care what they look like.
No.
It's just as long as they're there for me and they're fun to be around and they're, you know, admirable in other ways. I don't think I've got a single friend that I'm friends with because they've got an absolutely smoking hot body. Like it's just not a thing at all. So, and
I can tell you, I think we both have said this before actually, that like regardless of how much you weigh or how you look, it is entirely perception. You look back at yourself and you critiquing yourself all kinds of ways, and you think, I was perfectly fine then. I've spoken to clients that said I look back and I wish I was that now. And I said, even if you get back to that now, is actually that voice isn't necessarily going to change until you start actually speaking to yourself more lovingly. And that's the hardest thing I think for a lot of people. But that is the only thing that really matters for me to change. Weight can fluctuate all the time across your life, but it doesn't actually make you necessarily a better person, a nicer person.
No, it doesn't help you achieve like career goals or make you be a better parent or
it's just sad how much
whatever.
It drains from us.
That's the thing. If we can get on top of stuff like binge eating, then that, you know, that can help you to be better in all areas of your life, because think how much space it takes up in your brain and how draining it is and how exhausting. Clients, that's what it is, exhausting. Like especially when you bring it up and you have a conversation with them and straight away it's tears because it's just overwhelming, and you don't have to feel like that, and there is a way out, and it's small steps and being patient with yourself. It's just really small steps, and like there's never a quick fix. It's just taking it day by day.
Start each day fresh. Every day can be a Monday.
Every day can be a Monday.
Every second can be a Monday.
I don't know how I feel about Mondays.
No. Let's say I like a Sunday. Actually, I like a Saturday into it.
I like a Friday.
Let's make every day a Saturday. Let's do that. Strike for
every day a Saturday.
Be a tortoise and make every day a Saturday.
Absolutely. Hopefully that was helpful. Was that all of the tips that we've got through? So that book is Overcoming Binge Eating by Dr. Christopher G. Fairburn. And then I would say that some really great resources are beat.co.uk. They've got a really good forum on there. You can actually just call them. So similar to like the Samaritans, you can just call them and have a conversation with someone. And that can be better than, you know, if you're not into journaling or the voice noting or whatever, actually just having someone that's completely impartial is really great. You can speak to them. Obviously Oxfordshire Mind as well, because stuff like this does really mess with your head and your mental health. They're great. Or if you're not living in Oxfordshire, Mind are sort of all over the UK as well. And lots of local services. So once you start looking into it, it's amazing how many people
suffer
and how much help that there actually is out there. But yeah, hopefully that's helpful.
Yes, thank you.